The smell of fresh bread always hit me at 4 a.m., just like clockwork, every morning for the last 5 years. While the rest of Boston's money people were still sewing logs, I was already covered in flour, prepping for another day at Sweet Success Bakery. The name was a little funny, thinking about it. My family had tossed it out there, laughing when I first started, totally sure I wouldn't last. I'm Rose Hamilton, the youngest of the Hamiltons, who used to be one of the biggest names in Boston business. Used to be because right now, Hamilton Enterprises was circling the drain, and the family's whole thing was about to blow up. They didn't have a clue that I knew, though. We hadn't spoken in ages, not since I ditched the banking world for a life of baking. The big mixer was thrumming, churning out another batch of croissant dough. Lisa, my assistant manager, would be in soon, and then the rest of the crew. My little bakery had grown into a place that employed 30 people in 3 different spots, but my family didn't know about that either. They probably still imagined me in some tiny shop, pretending to be a business owner while they were busy running the real company. My phone buzzed. It was an email from James Chin, my financial guy. Confidential, Hamilton Enterprises stock dropped another 15% yesterday. They will have to declare bankruptcy by the end of the week unless they find a buyer. Shall we proceed as discussed? I grinned, thinking back to the last family dinner I'd been to, 5 years ago. That night, I told everyone I was quitting my job as a junior financial analyst at Hamilton Enterprises to open a bakery. A bakery. My sister Catherine just about lost it, nearly choking on her wine from laughing so hard. Such a waste of your business degree, Rose. My dad sighed, that disappointed look he always had plastered on his face. This is beneath you, beneath this family. Mom just shook her head, and my brother Alexander, the big shot CEO at Hamilton Enterprises, smirked. Well, when your little bakery dream crashes and burns, don't come crawling back here looking for a job. I walked out that night and never looked back. They had no clue, but I saw the writing on the wall even then. Shady accounting, risky investments. Alexander was getting more and more frantic, trying to keep up appearances. I tried to tell them, but who would listen to the youngest sibling who just wanted to bake? So I quietly built my own thing while theirs started to fall apart. Sweet Success wasn't just a bakery. It was the start of Sweet Success Enterprises, now a corporation that included a wholesale business, selling to fancy restaurants, a cooking school, and a line of specialty baking stuff sold all over New England. Last year we made $22 million. But on paper, everything was hidden under shell companies and fake names, hidden from my family and the world. To them, I was just the owner of a small bakery chain. The bell above the back door jingled as Lisa walked in. Morning, boss. Ready for another crazy day? I brushed the flour off my hands, then checked my phone again. Another email, my lawyer. Everything was official, paperwork all done. Ready to go whenever I was. More than ready, I texted Lisa, already picturing our upcoming meeting. My family. They were about to have no choice but to crawl to the one person they'd totally underestimated all these years. The morning was a blur, same as always. Financial bigwigs from all the nearby firms were lined up for our almond croissants and coffee, the good stuff. I even saw a few faces I knew from Hamilton Enterprises, some mid-level managers who had absolutely no clue their company was about to crash and burn, or that their CEO's little sis was serving them breakfast. Around 10, my phone rang. A number I hadn't seen in ages. It was Catherine, her voice. Gone was that usual, snooty tone, pure panic. We need to talk, she said. It's important. I kept it cool. I'm kind of swamped, Catherine. The bakery, she practically whispered. It's about the company we need your help. I closed my eyes, a little smile playing on my lips. This was it. I've got a meeting with my suppliers at 2, I said. I can meet you at 4. Thank you, she breathed. The company office? Nope. My office above the bakery, I said firmly, a beat of silence. I could practically hear her swallowing her pride. Fine, she said. We'll be there, I hung up and called James. They're coming, I told him. Is everything ready? All set, he replied. I'd put together every single piece of paper proving Alex screwed up the company big time. The board was already secretly on our side. All they needed was my family to say yes. I said thanks and got back to work, losing myself in the whole baking thing. People always wondered why I still worked in the kitchen. I could have retired, But honestly, I found a kind of calm in the exactness of it all, the science of baking. Alex, he was playing games with the numbers, making his messes look like wins, but I'd built something real, something you could actually taste and feel good about. At 3:55, I traded my flour-covered chef's jacket for a sharp black blazer. I barely got settled at my desk when Lisa knocked. "They're here," she whispered, practically buzzing with excitement. She was one of the few who knew the whole story. All three of them. I just nodded. "Send them in." Catherine walked in first, her fancy heels clicking on the wood floor. She looked way thinner than I remembered, all stressed out, you could see it in her eyes. Alex came next, his usually perfect suit a little wrinkled, his swagger gone, replaced by this nervous fidgeting. My dad came last and it hit me hard. He looked like he'd aged 10 years and 5. They stared around my office, trying to hide how surprised they were. It was professional, even fancy, big windows looking out over the city. Pictures of magazine articles were on the wall all about me. "Sweet success," one headline read. "Boston's baking star," stuff like that. I was thinking like, had they even glanced at those 30 under 30 food whiz kids? "Thanks for coming in," Catherine said, right off the bat like she was the designated talker. "We need your signature." I kind of arched an eyebrow. "My signature?" Alexander totally lost it. "Don't act like you don't know, Rose. You still have 15% of Hamilton Enterprises." He was practically yelling. "We gotta get all the shareholders to sign off on this sale or it's over." I just sort of leaned back in my chair. The sale to Global Dynamics, which was a total rip-off. It was the kind of deal that would leave our employees with nothing, screw over our suppliers, and trash our family's name. They were all staring at me. "How did you?" Catherine started. "No," I cut her off. Even though I left the company, I was still watching. I saw it all. Every single blunder, the bad calls, every time Alexander cooked the books to cover up his screw-ups. Alexander practically leaped forward. "You don't have any proof." I opened my desk and grabbed a huge stack of papers. "Actually, I have all the proof. Every single document, every shady deal, every risky thing that led us to this moment." I looked at my dad. "I tried to tell you 5 years ago, but you didn't want to listen to the daughter who just wanted to bake cookies." The room went silent, with just the low rumble of the city below. I could see the Hamilton Enterprises building through the window, towering over everything. It might be someone else's building by tomorrow. "What do you want?" my dad finally asked, sounding totally defeated. I slowly stood up. "I had to rescue the company, keep the jobs, keep what our family built alive." I tapped a button on my phone. "James, come on in." The door swung open and James walked in holding another file. My family's jaws dropped. They knew who he was. It was one of the best financial advisors in Boston. "But to get there," I said, "stuff has to change." Starting with the top brass. Alexander's face was turning a scary shade of crimson. "You can't." "I can," I cut him off. "Because right now, I'm the only one who can save Hamilton Enterprises from going under." "The only question is," I smirked, remembering all the times they'd brushed me off, made fun of me, thought I was nothing. "Are you ready to listen to the little sister who just bakes cookies?" Catherine was the first one to get over her surprise. "What exactly are you proposing, Rose?" she asked, her lawyer brain already working overtime. I nodded to James, and he started handing out papers to my stunned family. "Sweet Success Enterprises," he explained, "is ready to buy a controlling share of Hamilton Enterprises. The offer is way better than what Global Dynamics offered, and it guarantees job security for everyone and our suppliers." Alexander was furiously flipping through the documents, his face getting redder with every page. "Sweet Success Enterprises, that bakery," he laughed, but there was a frantic edge to it. "You can't be serious." Actually, I hit a button on my laptop, and the wall screen lit up with a corporate overview. "Sweet Success Enterprises is a private company, and we bring in $22 million a year. We don't owe anyone anything, and we have a ton of cash. We've got 3 stores, a wholesale side that delivers to 122 restaurants all over New England, a culinary school, and a brand of special ingredients that's in over 500 stores." My dad was shaking as he looked at the numbers. He was like, "How, when did you put all this together?" I just said, real quiet, "While you were making fun of my little bakery, I was building an empire." It was one customer, one product, one store at a time. No tricks, no shady dealings, and no risky moves, just plain hard work and actual growth. Catherine, being a lawyer, asked, "Who owns Sweet Success Enterprises?" And I just said, "Me." It was all through holding companies, so my name wasn't on anything public. I wanted to make it or break it based on what I did, not because of the Hamilton name. Alexander slammed his hand on my desk. He was furious. "This is crazy. You're trying to steal my company." "Your company?" I stood up slow. "The one you ran into the ground, the one where 300 people might lose their jobs because of your terrible management. That company, James cleared his throat. The board already knows about our plan and they're pretty excited about it. Alexander's face turned bright red. You went behind my back to the board. No, Alex, the board came to us. And then I pulled up another document on the screen. So, tons of emails hit my inbox from the board. They were all freaking out about Alex's leadership. They'd been watching him self-destruct for years, just waiting for anyone to step up. Then, out of nowhere, my dad spoke. What's your price? He asked. I leaned back, hands folded on my desk. Sweet Success buys 60% of Hamilton Enterprises, I said, at $42 a share. That's more than double what Global Dynamics offered. I laid out the rest. Every single employee keeps their job, all the supplier deals stay in place, and the Hamilton name, it's staying right where it is on the building. Catherine piped up, what about us? You and Dad keep your jobs, I told her, with a little extra oversight, that's all. Then I looked at Alex. His eyes were blazing. He's out, I said. Resignation, effective immediately, with a huge severance package and a promise he'll never run another Hamilton company ever again. You can't do this to me, he yelled. I'm the CEO, I'm the oldest son. I stared him down. Being the oldest doesn't make you a good leader, Alex, I said. Your choices got us here. The only question is, do you want to walk away rich, or do you want to face criminal charges for all that financial stuff you pulled? The room went completely silent. You could hear Alex breathing like a freight train. Catherine started poring over the papers, her lawyer brain in overdrive, and Dad looked like he'd aged 20 years in the last 5 minutes. James chimed in. The board meeting's tomorrow at 9. They'll vote this deal or bankruptcy, those are our only options. Then Dad stood up real quick. Gotta make some calls, right? I pointed to a private office next door. Use my conference room. As he headed out, I watched him check out the magazine covers on my wall like he was really seeing them for the first time. His face was a blank slate. Catherine followed, already on her phone, probably talking to other shareholders. Alexander just kept glaring at me, a mix of hate and shock on his face. How long have you been planning this? He spat. I haven't been planning anything, Alex. I've been building my own successful company while watching you wreck ours. The only difference is I learned from Mom and Dad's real legacy. What legacy? He snorted. Hard work. Integrity. Actually creating something worthwhile instead of just shuffling numbers. I stood up and went over to the window, looking out at the city we both loved. Did you know Mom started Hamilton Enterprises in our garage? Dad was still teaching back then. They built it from the ground up, one client at a time, just like I built Sweet Success. And now you're going to destroy everything they built. I turned back to him. No, Alex, I'm going to save it from you. The next 12 hours were a total whirlwind of lawyers, paperwork, and negotiating. Dad came out of all the phone calls looking totally drained but like he'd accepted it. Catherine's legal knowledge actually helped. While we were working out the final details, Alexander went from furious to begging. So, when push came to shove and it was him or jail, he signed those papers, right at 9 o'clock. The very next morning, I stepped back into that boardroom at Hamilton Enterprises. It had been 5 years. That's where they'd always talked down to me, acting like I was just a kid, clueless about the real world. The vote, unanimous. The press release went out by 10. Hamilton Enterprises was merging with Sweet Success Enterprises. The whole business world was totally stunned. Nobody knew the little bakery chain was actually the head of a super successful private company, and that the youngest Hamilton had secretly turned into one of Boston's most successful business people. CNBC blasted out the headline, Cookie Queen Saves Family Empire. Bloomberg went with Sweet Success, how a bakery bought a banking giant. But my favorite. That was the Wall Street Journal's. Rising Doe, Hamilton Scion transforms from black sheep to white knight. The next few weeks were crazy. I was bouncing between Sweet Success and Hamilton Enterprises, trying to fix things while keeping my bakeries running perfectly. I brought in Alex as the new CEO, a pro who was known for doing things the right way, and started to undo his more risky projects. Catherine was surprisingly good. She threw herself into learning about Sweet Success, just like she used to dive into corporate law. My dad was a private person, but sometimes I'd catch him watching me, and he'd have this look on his face like he was really proud. A month after everything changed, I showed up at my old bakery same time as always, 4 a.m. Some things just stick with you, even when you're juggling 2 businesses. I needed that quiet time in the morning, the simple joy of making something with my own hands. I was up to my elbows in dough when the door opened. There stood my dad, all awkward in his fancy suit like a fish out of water. "Dad, what are you doing here so early?" I asked. He took a step closer, breathing deep. "It smells just like Mom's kitchen," he said quietly. "Remember how she baked every Sunday?" I nodded, and tears welled up in my eyes. Mom passed away when I was in college, before I even knew baking was going to be my thing. But those Sunday mornings, watching her whip up amazing pastries and explaining the science behind it all, man, it had a bigger impact than I ever realized. "I never told you this," he went on, "but she always said you were just like her. She saw something special in you, this mix of creativity and business smarts that reminded her of herself." He picked up one of our almond croissants. "She would have loved this place." "Dad," I started, but he held up a hand. "No, let me finish," he said, gently putting the croissant back down. "I was wrong, Rose. We all were. We were so caught up in looking successful that we forgot what success really means." He swept his arm around the crazy busy kitchen. "This is real, you know. What you've done, it's real." He choked up a little. "I'm so proud of you, kiddo." I wiped my floury hands on my apron and gave him a big hug, completely forgetting about his fancy suit. For a few minutes, it was just us, father and daughter, surrounded by the smell of fresh bread, a real fresh start. Things just took off like crazy over the next few months. Hamilton Enterprises' stock shot back up. Everyone started trusting them again. Sweet Success opened 2 more places and even put out a cookbook that became a huge hit overnight. Catherine's now running our legal team, bringing her smarts to protect both companies. Dad's mostly retired now, just advising us and teaching business ethics at the local college. The irony isn't lost on anyone, that's for sure. Alexander. Last I heard, he'd moved to Florida and started renting out jet skis. Some people just never learn, huh? Me. I still get up at 4 a.m. every day to bake, even though I could easily retire and live off my money. Because success isn't just about the cash or power or proving those doubters wrong. It's about staying true to yourself, building something real, and never forgetting where you came from. Every morning, kneading dough and checking the ovens, I think about how far I've come since that awful family dinner 5 years ago. That little bakery they all laughed at. It's become the base of a whole empire now. You know, this whole thing has become a symbol of what you can do when you just believe in yourself, even when everyone else is doubting you. My office is where I keep the original recipe for those almond croissants we're known for, and it's right there next to the papers from that deal that saved Hamilton Enterprises. 2 different kinds of wins, both equally awesome. The other day, a young woman walked into the bakery. She was definitely on edge. She said she was quitting her big, important job to open a little cafe, and her family thought she was nuts. She asked if I had any advice. I smiled, thinking back on all the crazy stuff that led me here. I told her, chase what you love, but don't forget how to run a business. Success is a lot like baking, you know. You need the right stuff, gotta measure carefully, get the timing just right, and above all, you gotta have patience. Then I gave her my card. My real card, the one with both company logos. Her eyes got huge when she realized who I was. But the biggest thing I said to her was, don't ever let anyone tell you your dreams are too small. Sometimes the tiniest little seeds grow into the biggest, strongest trees. She left, holding my card like it was some kind of good luck charm. I stood there, watching her go, feeling a little taller myself, remembering another young woman who dared to believe she could build something special, one cookie at a time. The smell of fresh bread was everywhere, and somewhere over in the financial district, the Hamilton Enterprises building was catching the morning sun, its windows sparkling like pure potential. Sweet, sweet success for sure. That yeasty smell of fresh bread, it just filled my kitchen at 4 a.m. sharp. Same as it has for the last 5 years. Most of Boston's business crowd was still sound asleep, but I was already knee-deep in flour, getting ready for another day at the bakery. Sweet Success Bakery. Yeah, I know, the name's kind of a joke. My own family cracked up when I opened, figured I'd be out of business in a flash. I'm Rose Hamilton, by the way, the youngest of the Hamiltons. We used to be like the Hamilton family big shots in Boston. Past tense, though. Because right now,